And we're joined now by political analyst Dr. Ebrahim Harvey to unpack what ActionSA has presented. A very good evening to Dr. Harvey. So Herman Mashaba saying the party has been launched as people wanted a credible, non-racial alternative of the failed political establishment, looking at where it comes from, its partnership with the DA, and comparing it with South Africa's project, its endeavor for a non-racial society as being seen by the ANC. Has it been able to achieve what it's promising? And given the current highly racialized society that we are and the growing Gini coefficient, it seems to be driving a wider wedge in society. Can we achieve this credible non-racial alternative that they're speaking about?
Hi, good evening. Thanks for this opportunity. No, well, the pursuit of non-racialism remains, on the agenda. As you can see, in fact, what has happened in South Africa in inverse proportion to the worsening, deepening crisis, you've had a lot of re-racialization of our politics. But you must remember, ActionSA is not just targeting. They did fairly well in 2021, got about 20-odd% in Soweto and 20-odd% in Sandton. So while I think the ActionSA is going to target the black middle class vote, I think it's made significant inroads even into places like Sandton and so on. Look, there's no doubt that they've been doing a lot of work. I heard Mashaba on the Newsroom Africa interview earlier. They've reached 52% of the country and municipalities, and are hoping that by the 29th of May to have reached 60%. There's a concerted effort, there's no doubt, and I support a lot of what is contained in that agenda. I'll tell you what has struck me, what stood out. Particularly, though I think it's very unrealistic, to seek that type of, 4.8 million jobs in 5 years, private sector led, especially at a time when we had the worst jobless crisis in post-apartheid South Africa, the highest unemployment rate. I think it's a pie in the sky. How he's going to achieve that, I don't know. But there's no doubt there are other aspects of that manifesto, and the stand that he took against black economic empowerment is very interesting, given where he comes from himself. But certainly, I think commendable in the light of.
And that's what I want to zero in on. So as an alternative to the main opposition, as I mentioned, its links with the DA, patronage has often been something that's been pointed as being the root cause of the deployment, strategy of the ANC. So what he calls, Herman Mashaba, a 30-year opportunity fund to replace black economic empowerment. How's he going to achieve that, given the inability to redress, particularly for the previously disadvantaged? How do you make it more inclusive instead of inculcating this patronage that seems to have robbed the greater majority of a more equitable society?
No, honestly, as much as you can laud, and praise this, ambitious, it's overly ambitious target, 4.5, at a time, you've got to realize it's at the worst time ever in post-apartheid South Africa. That's probably why he's being, but a very unrealistic target. And no doubt, I think it's totally inappropriate. I think it's just part of electioneering, as to the ability to deliver. Nobody, the ANC, no party, no government that comes in after the 29th May elections will be able to, we must be careful that we don't actually lose more jobs. If you look at the trend, both in South Africa and globally, it's an increasingly job-shedding crisis that we're sitting with. But there are significant things that we need to take note of. When they talk about an inclusive economy, it's very significant coming from Mashaba, really, given his own background. And the stressing of the inclusive economy shows you that, in fact, contrary to what some people want to say, BE has been largely an elitist phenomenon. And you see the results in inverse proportion to the growth of a tiny black middle class and elite. You've had the worst black impoverishment and growth in inequalities in post-apartheid South Africa. So it has really benefited a tiny elite. So it is one of the pillars of this manifesto that I really, and I've written a lot about it, that I support, what he is going to, how he is going to contrast it with this inclusive economy, the nuts and bolts of that, we have to see. But as a goal, no doubt, I think as a policy, a need to revisit this policy and its impact, and to move towards concertedly a more inclusive economy, is really telling about what the impact of BE has done. But I think there are other things, in that charter that no doubt, I think the Home Affairs lambasting that he has done, it's one of the things that worries me, however, because he's been accused of xenophobic, but no doubt the Home Affairs has been responsible for the mess in the immigration policy up and down and so on. But he needs to clarify the stance of the party. And I don't think it comes very clear, in the manifesto, the position that he adopts in relation to workers from other countries, particularly at this conjuncture when the unemployment crisis has never been so bad. And inverse proportion to that is the importance of a clear, comprehensive policy on immigration, and workers from other countries working in South Africa. It's not very clear. And we have to see, how that thing it plays itself out in the post the election. And
as you say, the migratory patterns that we're seeing are more of a global phenomenon, and not just as a result of South Africa's weak border policy management. But another issue that Mashaba raises in terms of how ActionSA is going to police the health systems, for instance. He talks about the need to treat drug addiction as a medical, not a criminal issue. So the emphasis being placed on rehabilitation while cracking down on those involved in trafficking. But my question is, there have been several studies that cast the burden on the state of alcohol abuse, for instance. How would you then police and prevent the undeclared abuse of conventional treatment drugs?
No, it's a tall order, really, similar to the unemployment crisis and the, very unrealistic job creation target that he puts. This is a minefield, It's especially when you talk of drug peddling, dope pushing, and crime, all which are symptoms of a growing crisis in this country. You can't see the growth in crime and all the issues that he raises outside of the context of a worsening socio-economic crisis. Crime itself is an expression of how deep the socio-economic crisis is. So I think, the fact that he mentions it requires our attention. We need to look at it, but I think the manifesto doesn't spell out sufficiently, and often, you can't do that in an election manifesto. But it's a tall order, and it's a very complicated thing, that he's raising now, the elements that he draws into this equation. I think it's not going to be easy to practically implement that, as it's not going to be, with the both the jobless target that he has put and the creation of a clear immigration policy. We're sitting with the biggest crisis in post-apartheid South Africa. And every election manifesto is going to be tested, post 29th May. And we're sitting with a very difficult situation. But there are aspects of this charter, the election manifesto of this party. Remember, it's also part of the multi-party charter, DA-led. But no doubt, Mashaba and the DA, the ActionSA, are very serious. You can see it. They want to do much better than they did in 2021. And remember, they were only 1 year old And in Soweto and the Sandton area, they scored 22% of the vote. So this is a small party relatively, but been making huge strides. I mean, they've got 90 representatives at local level around the country. And I think they're going to do considerably well, given that, in the 29th May elections.
Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts on ActionSA's manifesto launch earlier on. Dr. Ebrahim Harvey, political analyst.